Hey, in this PDF I have here, this is a short tutorial going over the reading your meter and making your first 18 photographs for project 2. Um, Hopefully this kind of gets you going in the right direction. And as I said before, I highly suggest kind of going over the manual, seeing how to like change your f-stop, how you change your shutter, um, and just kind of maybe walking around your neighborhood, just uh, taking some photos, and seeing how the camera focuses and all that stuff. Okay, so getting into part A, again, this is to um, see how to use your light meter, to see how it works, and to become comfortable with making changes with the camera. All right, so the Graycard. Okay, so in this image here, these are two Graycards that I have. I think I have a couple more. Again, the camera's light meter is calibrated to read an average scene as 18% gray. Okay, and that average scene is like some mid-tones, some highlights, and some black. Okay, so like you got a range of white, gray, and black. All right. It doesn't know you're pointing the camera at a tree or a house or a sunset or whatever. It's just looking for an average amount of tones, and that light meter is going to work perfectly like 90% of the time. Here's my Graycard from photo 1 when I took it 25 years ago. And I still use a Graycard when I'm shooting a lot in my studio. I use it multiple times to check the meter readings. Whenever I have a job, I always double check the meter readings I'm getting with the Graycard, with another light meter, with all this kind of stuff, just to make sure everything is working as it should. Okay, so you're going to need your Graycard, your camera. All right, so with this setup, you need a camera. You don't need a tripod. I have a tripod in this scene because um, that koala bear is actually going to be the photographer. Okay, so in this scene, again, your ISO is set to 200. You have your white balance set to daylight. You're doing this during daytime. Okay, this is not something you do in your apartment or whatever like the night before. So in this scene, I chose my backyard as my first normal 18% scene that my meter would have no problem finding the right exposure. So my camera is pointed, this camera right here is pointed at like the tree, and there's some grass and all that stuff. And when I picked the camera up, the aperture just happened to be set to f11. So that's just what it was, and I left it there. And now the koala is going to be the photographer. Okay, so taking the first shot, I turned the camera on, gently pushed down the shutter, and read what it said. So through that little, through the viewfinder, you're going to see some stuff lighting up in there. Okay, so instead of, hang on one second. Oh, okay, no, it's there. So, I read the meter reading, and now those little hash marks were kind of bobbing like way to the right. So instead of changing the aperture, I brought the shutter speed down to 1/100th until the flashing dot was in the middle of the meter. All right. So now my exposure was f11 at 1/100th, and I took the picture, and it was fine. I could see in there it was perfectly exposed in the meter or in the camera. So I'm good. All right. So koala looked through, took the picture, and it basically looked like that. Okay, so now for the second one, again, I'm going to gently push the shutter down, and then I'm going to put the Graycard so it fills the screen. Okay, so like basically like an arm's length away. all right, with my Graycard, insert it. It was telling me I need a little less light. Okay, so now yours might be the same. Okay, your meter reading might not be any different. Mine was just a tiny bit different. 1/160th, 1/160th. So I moved the Graycard and took the picture. It was just a tiny bit darker. All right, so those first pictures, 1 and 2, should look the same for this part. Okay? Then the next 4. Okay? And I just followed the directions. So direction 3 says open up one stop from the reading. So if you're going to open up a stop, you're going to let in more light. So in my example, the reading was 1/60th of a second at f11. All right, so to let in more light, I made it f8, so the hole gets bigger. All right, open up 2 stops from reading 2. All right, so I go down to 5.6 and my shutter speed is just staying the same. I take a picture. So 3 and 4, you should see the picture get brighter. Now on 5, you have to go back to this initial reading, okay? And you're going to stop down 1, meaning it's going to get darker. So I'm going to let in less light. So F16, okay? So I go from 11 to 16, and then from 16 to 18. 5 and 6 should be darker, okay? And I just follow the directions. It might be good to bring a little notebook while you're doing this and just write it down on a pad, okay? So when you take shot number 2, you write down what that reading was. Okay, so moving to lighter than middle gray. So here we found the side of the house with white siding, right there. This could easily trick the camera, all right? Again, if I blend those tones together, even though here it looks a little muddy, that's going to give me something that's lighter than middle gray. So that will trick the meter. So first we went with what the camera said and got a reading of f11 at 1/200th of a second. We took the picture and got something that was not quite a white wall, but it was darker. Okay? So I was like, oh, okay. Not me, the koala was kind of confused. So we added the Graycard. We inserted the Graycard and we got a different reading. We were underexposed. So we got f11 at 1/50th of a second. That seemed like a big jump, but we removed the Graycard, and from here the light meter bounced back. So it's going to bounce back to what it was before, and you're going to be like, oh, should I change it? Don't change it. Ignore what the meter's saying now and just take the picture at what you figured out was right. Now, when I looked through when I looked at the preview, I had a white wall, okay? And then from there, we just follow the same steps, okay? You're just kind of opening up once, twice, then you go back to your original reading, and then closing down, 1, 2. Moving to darker than middle gray, okay? Again, you want to do this when it's sunny. You're looking for where there's, again, we're not shooting at night. That's a whole different can of worms, okay? We're shooting something dark on a bright day, okay? So here was a little harder to find a spot. We decided to shoot the corner of the patio. So there's light coming through, again, think about smearing those tones together and you're going to get something that's darker than middle gray. So here we metered and got f11 at 1/10, all right? And we're using a tripod, partially because I have the koala and you can see the top of my 7-year-old's head. They were my helpers, so I figured the camera was kind of safer on a tripod, all right? So we took the picture and got kind of like a brighter corner than what it looked like through the viewfinder, okay? You might even look at it and be like, that's not a bad picture, but it wasn't quite what I saw in the viewfinder. It seemed brighter, okay? So we add the final Graycard. Here we are, all right? And again, with this Graycard, you want to put it at more of an arm length arm's length. You know, like you want it to fill the frame, but like make sure the light's hitting it. Okay, here you can see the koala's arm is kind of short, so that was kind of giving us a little trouble. All right, so we put the Graycard in. Final reading for the day. It wasn't that much different, but it was F11 at a 20th of a second. So we were a little overexposed. So the meter was like overcompensating, all right, without the Graycard. We were letting in too much light, and that's why the picture was brighter than it looked. So from here, we followed the final 4 steps and went to Starbucks for a cold drink. Okay, it was kind of hot. All right. I would suggest bring a notepad. You know, maybe you don't need a tripod, but maybe, you know, if you can find one, it doesn't hurt. All right. So a little scrap of paper, Sharpie, Graycard camera, and you can get it done. And again, with these shots, like I'm not looking for artistic masterpieces. It can be anything, really, you know? So just give it a shot and see how it goes. All right.